I borrow clothes from there, man? We should ask them that. Thank you so much. Punita, we've got a seat for you. One sec, just hold on, let me just clean it for you. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you so much. Give it up for Punita at the bottom. What am I saying? Models, all of you are looking so handsome and nice and dashing. Give it up for the panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. All yours, Punita.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited to moderate the session of some interesting leaders I have on my left. So I would first start by asking each one of them to introduce a little bit about what interesting concept they are doing. I'll start with you, Umesh, first.
So I run a company called Uniphore, which I started in 2008 in an incubation cell at IIT Madras. My company builds enterprise software with deep tech in voice recognition, voice analytics, etc. Enterprise across the world, banks, telecom companies, airlines use voice recognition to solve some of human-machine interface problems that they face either in call centers or mobile devices or IoT, etc. So that's what my company does.
Hi, I'm Ritesh. I run a company called Innovate, and we offer co-working spaces to startups and small and medium enterprises. Apart from that, we run something called Project Gorilla, in which we invest in early stage founders.
Hi, I'm Sahil, Vohra. I started a company with my younger brother Rushabh, who's not here today. We manage real estate. So we started a real estate services platform where we maintain property on behalf of developers, landowners. And we also have a separate division where we now start developing real estate. So we're a real estate services platform.
Hey guys, I'm Munaf, Kapadia. I used to sell ads at Google. Now I sell samosas made by my mom. I'm the chief eating officer of the Bohri kitchen.
Hi guys, my name is Arunabh and I'm the founder of UClean. At UClean, we are building India's largest chain of laundromats. Started about 15 months back. We are currently present in 15 cities with more than 50 franchisees across India.
Okay, great. Thank you. So today on the panel, we have startups who are 3-year-old, 15 months old, and we have companies like Uniphore and SILA who are close to 7 and 8 years old. And so first, I would like by asking each one of you about how you think innovative concepts have a place in a market like India with the current scenario.
So if you look at it, when Uniphore started, we started off as a company which was trying to solve an India-first problem, which was to connect 70% of this country which lives in smaller towns and villages. And we felt that, there would be a digital divide because these people wouldn't participate in the digital revolution called the internet because of literacy, because of English literacy particularly, etc. And which is why we got into voice recognition in the first place. So I think as a concept, it was a deep tech direction to solve an deep Indian problem. What it has evolved over these years is that it has become an enterprise play with global relevance. But even today, as we go to Indian enterprises to sort of either sell our software or partner with them, we find that the Indian enterprise over the last 7-8 years that we've been meeting them has evolved tremendously. There is today an appetite to look at AI, machine learning, opportunities to drive efficiency through automation like never before. And I think the appetite to do something new and unique and sometimes to be the first one and to be seen being the first one is really up there today in the Indian enterprise space. So I think the market's evolving. Entrepreneurs like me who build technology and products to solve an Indian problem are also sort of quite a lot. We got support initially from IIT Madras, but in those days, it was only a couple of IITs and some IIMs doing incubation, but today incubation and accelerators and places like Innovate are sort of pretty much everywhere. So the entire ecosystem has sort of grown tremendously.
I think that India as a country has evolved. I think 10 years back, we were just trying to steal ideas from the West. We started Flipkart, we started companies like Ola, and now I think that we are entering that era that we are actually starting to solve the Indian problems. India has a huge market. I think we are at that innovation revolution standpoint where you just have to see out there, and you see the problem of pollution, you see the problem of disaster management. And there's a huge market everywhere, and I think this is the first time that we have a government which is very supportive for innovation and at least is addressing to the problems which startups have. And in the past 5 years as Project Gorilla, we've invested in 40 companies, and we've seen the kind of maturity the founders have now in the past 5 years. I think it's something which is incredible. The kind of leap that we have taken in the past 10 years, I think it took 70 or 80 years for Silicon Valley to build at this stature.
So, I'll kind of dumb it down a bit because, our business is a real estate services business. It's very, plain vanilla. We maintain real estate. So if you see the dictionary meaning of innovation, it's just a new method, idea, or product. But every business, whether you're laundry, real estate, or a franchise owner, there is process engineering and innovation in everything or every service or process that you do. So what we've done over the last 7 years is not try and spend money excessively on finding that new big idea, but just like value engineering each and every process and method within our company. It could be in accounting, in HR, in customer retention. So there are different ways of doing things and challenging, the status quo, as one would say in the textbooks. But innovation, it doesn't need to be really some new, idea that is on the front page. It's there in your business. It's a new way of doing something, and it can definitely add to a lot of efficiency.
Following up on what Sahil just said, innovation comes in various forms. I'm an example of someone who's literally doing nothing that's innovative. I took my mom's food. I wanted to keep her busy on the weekends, so I decided to invite strangers home. They said the food is great. So then I decided to put it up on Facebook that, hey, I work at Google, I'm quitting Google, and now I'm going to sell samosas. And the press found that incredibly innovative. And over 3 years, it's suddenly turned into a Facebook viral startup. So it's its own form of innovation. So anyone can be innovative. It's just about picking the pulse and tapping into it and then monetizing the hell out of it if you can. Yeah.
For us, the business model as a whole has been very different. So while if you look at the modern day startup mantra, you're always guided that it should always be online first and offline second. But for us, we decided that inherently, if you look at the business of laundry, behaviorally and culturally, it's a business that is extremely hyper-local in nature, where people tend to trust a laundry wala who is located close to where you're living. So we decided to reinvent the wheel in that sense and go ahead with a model that was offline first, online second. There was always the temptation to start up with something of an aggregation model wherein all you need to do is invest in a solid tech and then you aggregate leads from across the country and then pass it on to vendors. But that's where we realized that a business like laundry cannot survive. A business like laundry cannot be Uberized, so to say. And that's when we thought that the real innovation in laundry would lie in having neighborhood stores, and each neighborhood store would then independently serve its own neighborhood and be unit-wise profitable.
So I mean, all of you have an interesting mix in terms of the kind of investment you have raised for your venture, and we have people also wherein the businesses are bootstrapped in all of you. So I would like to get your take about raising investment. How has been the experience, and were you really concerned about the kind of equity you wanted to give up? I mean, recently John Chambers invested in your company. Congratulations. So would you like to talk more about that?
So I think, like some of us on the stage, when we started off in 2007, 2008, 2009 timeframe, India wasn't as hot a VC or a PE funding market as it is today. Of course, being part of the IIT Madras incubator helped us get the initial round of seed funding and got us going. But our first real round of funding happened when angels, and these were Indian angels who sort of put money into the company. It was a struggle at the time to convey a new concept, and especially a deep tech being developed in India with patents being filed, and sort of a disbelief that what could a company which is not in Silicon Valley but in Chennai put out, and you're saying there's IP involved. So the initial cycles were a struggle of a different kind, where you were proving your credibility of the technology and the development that's happening in your labs, etc. Of course, over time, both the ecosystem, the VC environment, and startups have matured quite a bit. In the last 3 years, we've raised 3 rounds of funding subsequently, each one larger than the previous one. Our focus has been that, we've raised funding wherever we think that there's an opportunity to press the accelerator even more and grow faster, go to a new geography, develop a new product, develop some new things into the product which will help us grow the business faster. If you look at, Uniphore's investors, it's a very interesting mix. 2 iconic investors, John Chambers, Executive Chairman, Cisco, and Chris Gopalakrishnan, co-founder Infosys, are people who, have put in their own money, also spend time with, coaching me and my leadership team, etc. But they are people who come with extremely long-term visions. Every time we have a conversation, it's not the next 3 to 5 years, it's the next 20, 30 years, and take a decision which, bodes well for the next 20, 30 years. We also have, hard-nosed VCs who have 3 to 5 year horizons, so to speak, and who are, who actually candidly push us very aggressively to grow faster. And I think that mix and that balance has worked very well for Uniphore. There's no dearth, in my view, of funding opportunities in India for businesses which are growing well and who want to raise money. There are, funding of various kinds and shapes. There's debt, there's equity, angel, VC, etc. For us, it's always been given, the opportunity and the options available. We've gone and looked for opportunities to raise money where, more than money comes in. So candidly, with John Chambers, more than the money, the time that he spends with me and the leadership team. He joined Cisco when it was, most people don't remember, it was less than 400 people. When he got out, it was 75,000 people. So if Uniphore does a 10th of that journey, I'd feel very proud. So, to learn from such people and also to get, investment from them has been a pleasure.
I completely agree with Umesh. I think that investment is not about capital to start with. It's more about the kind of marriage that can happen between the founding team and the investors that you get on board. So being on both the sides of the table, I've raised capital, I've invested capital, and I realized that for Innovate personally, the best investors are founders themselves. So we have people like Vijay Shekhar from Paytm, we have people like Rajanandan on board, we have people from Y Combinator on board, and we realized, so I'm a plain MBBS graduate, I don't have an MBA degree, so I don't know what business was. So having people like Sam Altman, and they actually open your mind. They actually, in those 3 months, they helped me get an MBA from Harvard for 2 years. So I think getting the right investors makes a lot of difference. And when it comes to valuation and giving up equity, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter over the long run. If you have the right partners, so we are just raising our Series A, and we had 2 options. One was a $5 million check, and one was a $20 million check. And in the $20 million check, obviously the valuation was very high. But we were very comfortable with the $5 million check, because the kind of people, we interacted with them for almost 2 months. And they were very, and there has to be a match in the culture and the vision of the company, because as founders, we might want to go slightly slower than as VCs want to invest capital in. And I think raising capital is very easy. A lot of people come to me and say that, okay, how do you raise capital? And I always tell them that be very clear about what you're doing. Never start with the market size. Never start with what is your target segment. Tell them about, don't start with even the why, start with what. So a very interesting example, when I went to Y Combinator, they asked, as Indians, as a Punjabi Indian, I have this tendency that they asked me that, what do you do? And I said that we are going to become India's largest office providers. We build atrociously beautiful co-working in hubs, campuses, and all those jargon language. And he said, dude, are you mad? Tell me in 6 words, what do you do? And I said, we build beautiful offices in India. And he said, that's it. You just need to tell investors, and you just need to build that credibility. And when you raise external capital, it's very, very important to be as frugal as you would be with your own capital, because that is the most important thing which differentiates between in good founders from great founders. You need to be as frugal as possible. And अगर आपने एक आदमी से 20 रुपए लिया, you need to make sure that उसको at least 21 rupees तो वापस देना ही देना. You can't go bankrupt on that. So I think that is something, the ethics make a lot of difference over there.
Okay.
So ours is a little different experience. So in 2010-11, you go to ask someone for money, they'll give you advice. Today you ask for advice, now they'll give you money. So we've seen that journey. So when we started with 50 lakhs of capital from friends and family, and we've subsequently added using bank debt. There are some schemes available where you can get, some working capital lines, discounting receivables. We've stretched that to be doing over 100 crores of turnover now after 7 years. So it is possible. And you just need to be frugal, understand your balance sheet. We have a finance background, but, capital is just a hygiene factor. You need to make sure that your business, your product, your service, profitability, cash flow management, these are critical things. Capital will chase good ideas, and we've seen that. I think sometimes having too much capital, can make people indisciplined, and, we've seen that with some of our peers, but just try and stay focused and be frugal on the money you have. And exactly as, my peers said out here, treat it like it's your own money, even if it's outside capital.
I'm loving the fact that Sahil is speaking before me because I get to take what he says and continue the conversation. So even though I've done my MBA, I don't understand finance for nuts. In fact, coincidentally, less than 3 years back, I finally got clarity on TBK's balance sheets after 3 years of running the business because I discovered this tool called QuickBooks that I've just been playing around with it. The only thing I want to say in this part of the conversation is the best time to raise money is when you don't need it. Because it's a lot easier to convince someone to do something when you're not trying to convince them. That's when they want to do it for you. That's what we've kind of done with the Bohri kitchen, where I'm facing this unique problem where I've got funds from really good people in the industry, but I don't really know what I need to do with that money. And that's helped because it kind of gives you that bandwidth to figure things out. Until the investors come back and they're like, dude, we could have put this in a fixed deposit. Why are you taking our money? But that's when you get the best valuation. That's when you kind of just breathe easy and think of a slightly larger picture than, hey, I need money because I'm burning money and that's why I need the money. And that's just the worst time to do anything like raising funds.
So for us, since we are very young in our life cycle and since we're only 15 months old, I would say the answer is a little different, but what I strongly feel is that the timing has to be right. So you need to be really convinced as to what % of your shareholding you want to dilute, what kind of partners you want to get into the business. And since when we started off, we were very sure right from the beginning that the model has to be offline first, online second, and the model has to be franchising. So the need for funds per se was not very high. So instead of getting a VC firm or a PE firm or an angel investor, what we did was we did a strategic partnership with Franchise India, which was the best platform at that point in time for us to recruit suitable franchisees and get them on board. And the beauty of the franchising model, if you look at it, is that you're able to raise funds without even diluting 0.1% equity of the business. Every time a franchisee comes on board, he pays you a certain brand fee, and that gives you positive cash flow. So with 50 franchisees that we recruited in the last 15 months, we are sufficiently cash positive. And at this point in time, I would not say that we are looking at fundraise, but at a certain later stage, maybe once we have 100 stores that are already operational, another institutional or strategic tie-up could potentially make sense for us.
So great. You all have some interesting concepts. You're well funded in terms of sustaining the business for long. So I really want to ask, what's the next challenge each one of you is facing right now in the business?
So I can talk from the Uniphore experience. I think one of the things that we realize is for the last few years, the Indian startup ecosystem has done really well. We've created some unicorns in the B2C space. In the B2B enterprise software space, India is yet to sort of create a global mark. We don't yet have an Oracle or a Cisco or an HP kind of story coming out of India. And I think for us, that's really a goal to sort of look forward to to create a globally large B2B deep tech company headquartered in India, but sort of globally relevant and global dominance, which is again, the kind of ventures, the kind of money that we raise is all, if you look at the trend, it's all sort of helping us go in a certain direction. So the challenge is, how do you go to a new geography, go crack new cultures, become a known brand in a new area? We still sell products which in many parts of the world are net new. When we meet a CIO, he or she hears from us about our product for the first time. And so there is this element of credibility and trust, and we've never heard of the product, we've never heard of you, why do you think we'll buy from you? And so the challenge is to establish that brand recognition around the world, we're still evangelizing our product, which also means, it's a place where we're not worried about competition as much. It's still deep tech, we're evangelizing the space, we're growing the pie, we're growing the market, etc. But I think the Uber goal is to look at global scale, global growth, potentially, create opportunities for a unicorn in the B2B space coming out of India. So that's what we are sort of working towards.
So we are in a very operationally intensive business. We like to call ourselves as a technology company because you get a very good valuation multiple on your revenues. But honestly, we are not. We are a plain vanilla office player. We take a real estate space and we convert it into a sexy looking office, and we sell it to startups or MNCs or SMEs, like your business, Sahil. But the biggest challenge which we are right now facing is, obviously we have a lot of competition coming in. We have competition in the form of WeWork, which is valued at $23 billion, and they are pumping in significant amount of capital, and this is an extreme case of capital dumping happening where we are actually forced to decrease the prices. So our strategy right now is just to focus and hold the fort and create the best possible customer experience and try to decrease the cost of per seat, because that is something, because Indians mostly, we realize that Indians value price as much as anything in the world. They would not pay you a premium on maybe a service which they do not value. Even if you provide them with a Herman Miller chair, they won't care about it. So they want a decent chair, but at their budget. And that is something that we are working, and we want to scale it up quickly to at least the major metropolitan cities in the country.
The big challenge we're facing right now is to figure out how to make ourselves dispensable as founders and promoters. There's a book I read recently by Marshall Goldsmith which says, "What got you here won't get you there." And when you basically reach a certain size, and it doesn't have to be a revenue number, it could even be when a proof of concept is done or you have enough of an operational bandwidth, is that the same skill sets that got you to that stage, whether it's energy, that hustle, relationships, networks, may not get you to the next stage, which may mean leadership teams, process tracking, creating a USP. So, moving from that startup phase to a little more established, scalable business where the business becomes bigger than us. That's kind of, what is our challenge and what we're grappling with.
What challenges is the Bohri Kitchen facing? I think TBK, the Bohri Kitchen is at a stage where more than what challenges is the company facing, it's about what challenges am I facing, because currently we're that small. And my challenges range from the business side of things to the personal side of things, as like I'm going through that phase as an entrepreneur. As many of you all have already gone through, and some of us are still going through. On the business side, obvious challenges like, hey, there's so many things we can do. I can sell frozen samosas at Godrej Nature's Basket, or I can aggregate Bohri households across the country and world and create dining experiences out of each and every home. What do I do? And unfortunately, what I tend to do, and I think a lot of our personality types do, is we want to do everything at the same time, and that's when we mess it up. Wow. Should I keep talking? Okay, and on the personal side, the challenges I'm facing are things like my ego. So what happens with entrepreneurship, at least in my case, is suddenly you're getting so much limelight, in this case too much limelight, that when you need to do ugly things like beg a BMC guy to give you a license, there's a clash in what's happening outside the office and what's happening inside the office. And I'm facing these two unique set of challenges. And just it's let's see how it all ends. Yeah.
Laundry for us, very honestly, laundry is an industry which is absolutely devoid of glamour and is an industry that has been looked down upon since the beginning of civilization. So while the industry is as old as the civilization itself, you don't have a single success story. You don't have a great success story of a startup having raised a lot of funds or an institutional investor participating or partnering with laundry brands. So unfortunately, an industry which is still 97% unorganized and is largely controlled by the dhobis, there is a lack of structure that currently exists. A lot of startups have come in the past and a lot of them have gone belly up after raising some small amount of funding. And this has overall created a sense of distrust in the industry. So when we started UClean, our idea was that we should be able to at least get certain dhobis, at least some percentage of these dhobis on our portal, get them converted into UClean franchisees, and then build together the entire industry in combination with them. But unfortunately, what has happened in the industry in the last 7 to 10 years, there's a strong sense of distrust. Dhobis don't believe us because they are not very sure whether the startup is going to survive or not. So that is one challenge that we are trying to combat. And I would say we are not even 1% successful till now. And I don't have an answer to how we are going to actually organize it, but we would keep working at it.
So due to paucity of time, we'll have to conclude it here because some of our 35 under 35 achievers have a flight to catch. So thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for your time and thanks for such a wonderful take on your journey.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the force on stage. Come on, louder, please. Thank you so much. You got to remain on stage, all right, guys? You got to remain on stage. Thank you so much because you've got lots of action coming up. In the meanwhile, can I have Ritu Maria back on stage, please? Ritu, I was missing you. Please come back. Give it up for Ritu Maria. Can I request the panelists and moderator come a little on the side because we've got an audio visual which is going to be playing right now. So on the side, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the video for 35 under 35 class of 2018. Can we have a look at that, please? Ladies and gentlemen, 35 under 35. We're going to call the rest of the force on stage. Can we have these lovely sofas removed? Or they're going to remain on stage? They will be on stage. Come. In the meanwhile, there was one gentleman who received a 20 million check and you refused it. Is that right, sir?
We got a term sheet. We didn't get the check actually, but yes.
Sir, they're supposed like us need the money very badly, sir. Next time, don't refuse it, just give me a call on my landline. I can't afford a mobile phone.
I'll do that.
It's 20 million, don't refuse it. Give it to lesser than us also. And Munaf, I want to tell you one thing. I want to have breakfast, lunch and dinner in your house. Parents and your family to adopt me as well. Promise me that. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. The finest food and water force on stage. Alright, now, we're going to call the rest of the class of 35 under 35 on stage. Is sofa bhi rahenge ki hata rahe? Koई tension nahi. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Umesh Singh, co-founder, UN Academy. Can we have you on stage, please? Hello, sir. Gaurav Mehta, Director, Careful Watch Company. Arun Raju, co-founder, Director, Andron Technologies. Arpit Dupa, co-founder, Chakra Innovation. Harshal Mathur, CEO and co-founder, Razor